So I'll get the recording. So Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to level 2. This is our week. So we are combining the two groups again this week. So week 5 for our group and week 13, I think, for the other group. Okay, anyway, so let's continue. So we begin with the Guru Pranam prayers and the Mangala Charan. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vikna Vinasha Narasingha Iti Namine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayatim Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Om Tat Sat. So we are doing the Gita Mahatmya chapter 3 today. So if you remember, the Gita Mahatmya is a conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati. And in that conversation, Lord Shiva is narrating another conversation, which is going between Lord Narayana and Lakshmi Devi. And in that conversation, Lord Vishnu is telling the glory of each of the chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 1, we covered. So chapter 1, if you remember, was about Susharma and how he became the bull in his next life after going through hell and everything. So in this chapter, we heard about how simply reciting the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1 alone, was sufficient to save our souls from sinful activity, sinful reactions, karma, bad karma. So he did not have to go to hell, and one does not have to take. It saves one from hell. It saves one from taking birth in lower species. So that was simply indirectly hearing from a third party was sufficient to achieve this. So that is the point about the first chapter, glory of the first chapter. And then we heard the glory of the second chapter. Okay, saving from hell and all that is fine, but what is the point if we are not peaceful? So how to achieve peace? So ultimate peace is to know that we are the soul and to realize that we are the soul. And this was illustrated in the story in the second chapter of Devashama, how Devashama was also able to attain peace after learning from Mitravan, the goat herd. So simply by reciting chapter 2, one is able to achieve great peace, Shanti. So now we continue with chapter 3. So Sri Vishnu says, "My dear Lakshmi, now please listen to the glories of the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita." So here he begins with the story of this person called Jada. Now in the town of Janasthan, this Janasthan is somewhere in Nashik in India. If you see, it's a area in Nashik, and this place is still there, Janasthan. So in that place, there's a famous Shakti temple over there. Anyway, in the town of Janasthan was a Brahmana of the name Jada, who was born in the dynasty of Kaushik. Kaushik is one of the sages coming down, one of the saintly kings, and that dynasty was still going on. And anyway, so he's one of the child born over there. But though he was born in this Brahminical family, and he was given a very good religious upbringing and all that, he was taught the shastras and all that, how to function as a Brahmana. But this Jada, he was not Brahminically inclined. He did not want to follow the Brahminical dharma. So he had different ideas. He wasn't very high thinking in that sense. So he was more interested in profit. So he wanted to make profit. He wanted to get worldly, materialistic glory and all that. So despite all the knowledge that he was given, his nature was like that. He just couldn't. So what he did was, as when he grew up, he became this Brahmana. But what he did was he gave up these Brahminical duties, and then he instead took up another duty. He became a Vaishya. A Vaishya means like a mercantile person. And when he became a Vaishya, he was very greedy and miserly. So he used to, though he was successful due to his nature of a Vaishya, and somehow, Brahminical family, when they are born, they are quite intelligent. So he was misusing that intelligence in this way, and he was able to amass a lot of wealth in all his dealings. So he became quite wealthy, right? And his nature of business involves a lot of travel. So he used to travel a lot, northern states, southern states, eastern, western. So he used to go a lot of traveling, and many business ventures were done, and he was very wealthy. Mhm. But despite his wealth, he was very miserly, and I mentioned he is also not a very upright person. So he used to cheat a lot in his business to get any means in order to attain what he wanted. He wanted wealth, and when he got a lot of wealth, he became corrupted. So little by little, he fell into corruption. So he started performing many other sinful deeds. He gave up his entire Brahminical nature and started eating unofferable food and all that. And then he also associated, one wife wasn't sufficient for him. So he started to have relationships with other people's wives. He used to lure them with their wealth. And he, not only that, he used to get, he used to go to the brothels and indulge in prostitution. So he hired prostitutes and all that. And in this way, he did a lot of sinful activities. He was involved in gambling. He was involved in illicit sexual activity. He was involved in untruthfulness. So he gave up, basically, he gave up his dharmic activity. So anyway, while he was doing all these things and doing his business, so one day he had to go to a northern city in order to settle a business deal. So he was traveling like this, and he was traveling, and somehow the traveling, he was not able to reach his destination on time. It was delayed. So he wanted to reach there before nightfall. It was a many days traveling, so usually he'll stop by in different areas. But unfortunately, in one of the traveling situations, he was he could not reach before night fell. So he was in the road, and this road happened to pass through a forest. And in this forest, it's like a dark forest. And while he was walking through this forest, of course, he had his guards and all that, but his wealth made him very popular. And a lot of people started to envy him. And he made a lot of secret enemies also. So some of these enemies got to know that he was going to travel during this period. And somehow they arranged in such a way that he would be delayed. And when he was delayed and he was going through this forest, right? So then there were people who were waiting in line to ambush him. So what happened? He got when he entered into this forest, and then he decided, okay, let me spend the night. I don't think I can reach my destination on time. So he was very tired also. So he decided to spend the night under a particular tree. So he spent the night there. But what happened? Those people, those assassins, and those bandits who were waiting for him to take rest, they ambushed him at night. And they killed all his other servants, and they caught him, and they killed. They caught him, and they laughed at him, and they stole all his wealth, and they sort of tortured him also. And just to, because he made many secret enemies, right? Business dealings and all that. So to teach him a lesson, they tortured him a little, and eventually they tied him to this tree, and they ultimately killed him. And after killing him, they left him tied to that tree in that way to teach a lesson to everybody. So what happened was, it so happened that the night which he died, anyway, so he, after he died, he was not able to attain the next birth. So instead, he took the form of a ghost. He became a preta, a very scary looking being, and he was tied to that tree. Somehow he remained in that area, and he used to now to become a ghost is not a very good thing. They actually suffer a lot. It's actually a very bad situation. So somehow, because he died out of a very violent death, and on top of that, because he had a lot of sinful activities in his credit, so because of his bad karma and all that, so due to these combinations of activities of bad karma, of all his sinful activities and his nature, that he couldn't give up his wealth, he couldn't give up that all these things was happening to him, he couldn't accept it. And at the same time, being killed in such a violent manner, he again took the body of a ghostly being. So, and in this way, he remained there. So, sorry, that's a wrong slide. Okay, anyway. So, but now this Jada, he had a son. And this son, he had a few children actually, but the eldest amongst them was this son. And unlike Jada, the father, this son was a very pious person. He was not someone who, he was given, now this Jada, for all the things that he has done, he wanted that his children be brought up properly in the Brahminical culture. Just a moment, I'll just mute you, Mataji, so if you don't mind. Okay. So despite him, Jada himself following a very different path, he wanted to ensure that his family at least was trained properly, to ensure, he wanted to enjoy the Brahminical privilege. At the same time, he also wanted to be rich and all that. So he wanted to train his family in the same manner. So his mother was very Brahminical, and they were all trained properly. And this son also was very virtuous, and he was very religious. He was trained in the Brahminical rituals, in the Vedic Shastras and all that by his maternal family. So naturally, when Jada failed to return from his business trips, the family became very worried. They were concerned. And then they told Jada, why don't you retrace the steps of your father and try to find out what has delayed your father? So in this way, they sent Jada out. And Jada decided to search for him. Sorry, the son of Jada decided to, I'm not sure, the name of the son is not mentioned, so we don't know. So, but anyway, the son decided to look for him. So he took a caravan trail and he started searching. He started to retrace all the steps again, where his father went. Now, his father in his business dealings, he had many business dealings in different parts of the of the land. So he had to search, and then he asked a few people, and the people will tell him, oh no, he went this way, or then he went north. So in this way, finally he was able to come to the city where he last thought that his father would be. So this is a bit like a desert city area. So in that desert city area, he entered into the marketplace, and he went into the streets where his father had a business office there. Just a moment, I'll mute you as well, Mataji. Okay, don't mind. So then, while he was searching around in the street where his father's office used to be, right? He eventually, after a long search, he came across a person, an elderly person, who had some information about what happened to his father. And then this person told him that I was previously in one of the servants of your father's enemies. So your father's enemy, they decided to kill your father. So they lured your father into the forest, and then when night fell, they killed him and they hung him there. So when Jada's son heard about this, he became very sad. So he's like, oh Krishna, Krishna, what is to happen to my father? So then he thought, okay, what can I do? I'm a Brahmana. So what I will do is I will try to pray for my father. So he decided that I will go to Varanasi, Banaras, the ancient city of Banaras. Because usually the culture during that time is when people die, they go to these holy cities. One of these cities nearby was Banaras, Kasi. It's one of the, actually, currently it's known as the oldest living city, where from time immemorial, right? Most other cities, they are not really, they are more like ruins and all that. Whereas this one is the oldest living city known to man. So he decided to go to Banaras and perform the Shraddha ceremony. Shraddha means the ceremony for the departed. So usually they'll go to the Ganga, they'll do some prayers over there, and they offer some food and everything, and they'll put it in the river. So this is the Shraddha ceremony. So he wanted to go there and offer pinda. Pinda means is the food stuff. It's like sesame and rice and all that mixed in a certain way with honey and all ghee, and then they put it in the river. So he wanted to offer pinda for his father, and in this way hope that his father is benefited in whichever horrible situation that he is, because naturally he died in this way, and he knows his father wasn't really a very virtuous person, so he wanted to benefit him. So this son of Jada decided to go to Kasi. So while he was going, he needed to go through this particular tract of forest in order to reach Kasi. So while passing through this forest, he was walking, and then it so happened that this is the same forest that his father was killed in. And as he was walking, it was daytime, and then slowly, it was a very long tract. He was walking alone, and eventually dusk came, and the forest, it became dusk, and then he eventually thought, I think it's time for me to take a rest. So I cannot continue in this journey. So this was the 9th day of his journey. And when he decided to take a rest, he saw a very nice, a big, large tree over there. And he thought that this tree will be a nice place for me to rest. So it so happened that he took rest in the same tree that his father was killed. And then later on, though they hung him over there, but later they buried him in that same place under the spot of that tree. So he decided to take rest there, and it was already getting dark. So, this Jada's son, he had a certain ritual which he used to do. So every night, every time dusk came about, he had this ritual which he would do. And this ritual involves that he would read some scripture. So he decided to read the Bhagavad Gita on that day before he took rest. So before he started reading, he was feeling a little uncomfortable. He thought that he felt some strange wind and mutterings and all that taking place and whatever. It was about dusk, around 7:30, around this time, right? So then he decided to read the Bhagavad Gita, and it so happens that he was reading the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So as he was reading the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and there was a lot of wind, and then as he completed reading it, he ignored all the wind and all the leaves dropping and everything. And as he was continuously reading, he finished reading the entire chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, and suddenly he heard a loud noise. It's like the wind picked up very much, and there was like a cracking and creaking of the branches. And eventually he saw the picture of his father. And he didn't see the face of the father in this way. He saw the ghostly apparition. So this preta, there are different species of ghostly beings. Like there are pretas, bhutas, pisachas, yakshas, rakshasas, so like that. So he saw this ghostly being emerge in front of him, and slowly the face of the ghostly being changed, and it showed the face of his father. And the father's face slowly started to change, and the ghostly being started to change, and eventually it became a shining personality. This shining personality was having 4 arms, and he was holding a conch, lotus, and he was holding a mace, and he was garlanded, and he had wonderful earrings, and he had wonderful, beautiful, shining helmet, and he looked just like Lord Vishnu. So then the son of this Jada was amazed. What has happened? So he saw the father's form. Initially he was very sad and very disturbed when he saw the horrible being come in front. And then when the face of that being was revealed as his father, he was very terribly disturbed. But right in front of his eyes, he saw the father's form change into this beautiful, shining personality. Now, this personality's body was darkish color, like the color of rain clouds. He was wearing a yellow dhoti, right? And his bodily effulgence was lightening up all the directions around him until the darkness abated around him, and it was almost like shiny. It looked almost like daytime. And having realized that this personality was once upon a time his father, he asked this personality, he inquired from this person, what has happened? Who are you? What has happened? And this personality said, my dear son, I was once your father. And I was once your father, Jada. and he told what has happened to him. So I was, due to my wicked ways, first of all, I made the offense of leaving my duty as a Brahmana and taking up Vaishya. So I did not do my duty properly, and I decided to do some other duty which was not ordained according to my destiny. And after that, I completely left off my Brahminical nature, and I indulged in so many wicked activities, sinful and wicked activities. And in this way, I made many enemies, and my enemies eventually found a way to kill me. And then he described how he was killed and how he spent many days in this horrible uh, body of a ghost. And then he told, but that is in the past. Somehow, oh my son, you have saved me. Simply by reading this Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, you have freed me from all my sinful reactions, all my karma, and you have saved me from this ghostly body of this ghost. And now, not only that, you have given me this by the benediction of reading this chapter 3. I have completely become free from this cycle of birth and death. Not only have I become free from the cycle of birth and death, I have been given an opportunity. I've been given this moksha called Swarupa Moksha. Now, this Swarupa Moksha is moksha means liberation from this material existence, and promoted to the Vaikunta planets, to the spiritual abodes. And over there, I'm given this Swarupa Moksha. It's one of the perfections given to those people who live in the spiritual world. And Swarupa means to have the same bodily features just like Lord Vishnu. So it's mentioned that the Vishnu Dutas, or the Dutas of Vishnu, the people who live in the spiritual world in the Vaikunta Loka, they all have the same bodily features just like Lord Vishnu. They also have forearms just like Lord Vishnu. They also have the same effulgence and everything. They look just like Lord Vishnu. There are a few differences, but mainly, generally, they look like Lord Vishnu over there. And this is his special benediction which he has attained. So he became so thankful, and he says, in this way, you have released me. And then after hearing this, the son was amazed and he was very happy. And his faith in the scriptures, which was already very strong, grew even more. And then he asked this shining personality who was once his father, any further instructions you have for me, oh my father? So in this way, then this personality, this Jada, who was once Jada, he told his son, just like how you have saved me simply by reciting this chapter 3 Bhagavad Gita, I request that you save all the rest of our family members. Now, many of our ancestors, they are all in different situations of life within this material world. Some are trapped in different bodies. Some are trapped in Pitraloka. Some are trapped in Yamaraja's abode, suffering in various forms of punishment. Some are taking lower births in the lower forms of life, like animal life or plant life, or even lower than that. So in this way, I request that you save all our ancestors in this way, simply by reciting this chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 was, now so the personality was saying, right, like how this reading this chapter 3 Bhagavad Gita was sufficient to save the ancestors of this of anyone who reads from even the burning fires of hell. It's even able to save the person from the materialistic nature of life, from the cycles of birth and death. It's able to deliver that person. So he says, specifically, my brother has also led a very sinful life, and he is now suffering in the darkest regions of hell. So if you wish to free him and our other ancestors who are suffering there, please recite this chapter 3 Bhagavad Gita daily for them. So in this way, the son of Jada, he would recite, he accepted this instruction. He was a very pure-hearted person, and he said, yes, gladly I will do this seva, not only for your brother, for my uncle, but all the other personalities in my lineage. And not only that, I will recite this Bhagavad Gita for the rest of my life, and let more and more people become liberated from this cycle of birth and death. So in this way, this shining personality, he took his leave, and this and then with the final blessings, he told, make sure, please do this recitation of the Bhagavad Gita. And then a shining, beautiful airplane is like they call it Vimana, right, in Sanskrit. A Pushpaka Vimana, a beautiful airplane, came down with other Vishnu Dutas, and they took this Jada in his form of the Vishnu Duta, and then they brought him back to the spiritual world. So the son of Jada was able to see all of this. So then, after he returned back to his home, he recounted what has happened to his family members. And together, all the family members will every day, without fail, recite the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3. And they will do this in front of their deity. They have a deity, a very beautiful deity of Krishna installed in their house, and they will recite this chapter. Now, this deity is a very special deity. I'm just showing you this picture. This is a deity of Lord Gopinath, and he is in Jaipur. It's not the same deity. I'm just putting a deity picture here just to show. So this is one of the ancient deities. This deity is 5,000 years old, and it is said that this deity is carved by Vajranabha. Vajranabha is the grandson of Krishna, and he personally installed this deity 5,000 years ago. Initially, it was installed in Vrindavan, but later it was brought to this deity was brought to Jaipur. So this is the deity in Jaipur. So anyway, while he was doing this, the son of Jada, while he was reciting this Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 daily with his family members, so Lord Vishnu, he sent his messengers, the Vishnu Dutas, to the kingdom of Yamaraj, to Yamaloka, who to meet Yamaraj and to instruct Yamaraj to free all these ancestors of Jada. So this is Yamaraj, and you can see how all the souls are brought in front of Yamaraj for judgment and cast into the burning pits of hell, right? So Lord Narayan sent his Vishnu Duta and instructed that these souls are saved. So the Vishnu Dutas went and told Yamaraj that Lord Vishnu is inquiring to your welfare. So he's asking, how are you and everything? And then he's also asking you to free all these conditioned souls. So then when Lord Yama heard this, immediately he freed these particular souls, and then he got on top of his bull carrier, buffalo, sorry, not bull. He got on top of his buffalo carrier. And actually, because when he released the souls, there were a lot of souls to release. And in fact, it was said that one corner of hell became depopulated simply by the blessings of this son of Jada and his family members who were reciting the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 continuously. So many souls were being freed. So then this Yamaraj, he went to meet Narayan personally. So he went to Shvetadweep. This is where the Lord is reclining on his bed of Adisej. Prabhuji, I will just mute you for a moment. Okay. All right. So he went personally to visit Lord Narayan. And then when he arrived in this Shvetadep and took darshan of Lord Vishnu, he saw that Lord Vishnu is there, but he is not there alone. Together with Lord Vishnu, so many other devatas were also there. Lord Brahma is there, Lakshmi Devi is also there at his feet. And then he could see all the 330 million devatas all in the presence of Lord Vishnu, taking darshan of Lord Vishnu together with him. So, and there, Dharmaraj or Yamaraj is also there in the same place. And then he told, my dear Lord Vishnu, you are the well-wisher of all the conditioned souls. There is no limit of your glories. From the Vedas, from you the Vedas have come. You are time, and in the course of time, you will destroy all things. So in this way, Lord Yamaraj utters his prayers to Lord Vishnu. This is mentioned in the Padma Purana, this particular set of prayers. So I'm just reproducing it here. Then he goes on, you are the cause and maintainer of the three worlds. So when they mean the three worlds, they mean the three planetary systems. There's Bhu, Bhuvar, and Swarga, right? So these are the three sets of planetary dimensions. We will talk about that later on in one of the special topics in detail. So you are the cause and maintainer of the three worlds, and you are the super soul, Paramatma, in everyone's heart, who is directing their activities. You are the guru of the whole universe and the goal of the devotees. Then he says the third line of the prayer, O lotus-eyed one, please accept my obeisances again and again. Your glories are unlimited. So in this way, Yamaraj says his prayer, with folded hands, offers his respects to Lord Vishnu, and then he continues, as per your instructions, I have released all the conditioned souls from hell. So now one part of hell is vacant. So kindly instruct me what work you wish me to perform now. If like this, everybody is going to come and recite the Bhagavad Gita, then one day hell will not have enough people. So then what job shall I do? So in this way, he's asking. And then Lord Vishnu responds in a very, in a voice which is both sweet as well as deep as thunder. So it is a contradiction, but anyway, we can understand the Lord is Achintya. So in this way, he uttered in his sweet and thunderous voice, my dear Dharmaraja, Yamaraja, you are equal to everyone, and I do not need to instruct you on your duties. So kindly return to your abode with my full blessings and continue your duties. There will never be a time when that there will be hardly any people coming to hell, because this materialistic world are full of errant souls who have their own desires, and not every one of them are pious. So do not worry, this is a temporary situation, he's telling Yamaraj. Go back and concentrate on your duties. Don't give up your duties, just like how Jada gave up his duties. So, and I don't have to instruct you on that, because you are a Mahajan. So you know very well, right? I'm extrapolating, I'm saying all these extra words. So therefore, the point here is, one should do one's duty carefully, and one should not whimsically let it go and take up another duty without fulfilling that particular duty. So that was one of the main morals of this story. So in this way, we hear the story of the glory of the chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, how Jada was saved by his son who recited the chapter 3 Bhagavad Gita. So there are several lessons which we can learn from this story, right? So anyone wants to share anything first before we say anything? What do you think we learn from this?
We must continuously read our Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. Shravanam. Correct. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnu Pada Sevanam. So these are the sadhanas. There are sadhanas. Devotee means devotee is always doing these activities. So Shravanam means always hearing. So that is one way of perfection. So here the glorification is more on Kirtanam. Always chanting or always Kirtanam means chanting the names. It also means chanting the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that, reciting the Bhagavad Gita is very, very beneficial. It not only saves us, it not only gives us peace, it can also save our ancestors. So therefore, it's very, very nice. Any other lessons we learned from this?
Vanakkam Prabhu.
Yes, Vanakkam Mataji.
I'm Uma here. I would
Yes.
like to share something.
Hmm.
It's just an experience that I had last night because I was reading this chapter 3, you see.
Oh.
And before this also, I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita, but after attending the first class with you for the 18 days and now following, I read the chapters with concentration, and after that I reflect upon everything that has been happening around me. So to make it short, last night I was reading the chapter 3, almost but I can't recall what this one. After reading, I was reading it about 12 o'clock in the midnight. And then after reading for half an hour, I wanted to sleep and I slept off. And then actually I was sleeping peacefully. I don't know what happened. Suddenly, I couldn't sleep and I feel like some apparition or ghost or whatever, like attacking me. And then, I was like unable to sleep. I'm just trying to free myself from that whatever thing it is. I used to have a lot of this kind of disturbance in sleep for few years back. And then for some years, in fact, after so long, about 1.5 years ago, nothing, everything was smooth. And I don't know why last night it happened again. And I just couldn't release myself from that thing. And suddenly I shouted in my sleep. And I was awake. I was fully awake when all these things happening. But when I opened my eyes and I just check around, is anybody, but after that I just prayed to Shirdi Baba. I was praying. I just said some prayers, I just slept off and I just forgot about it until now. You are mentioning that, reading the chapter 3 is actually somebody asking us for help or what. I don't know how to relate this. So
Yes.
this is one.
Yes, Mataji, your experience is not uncommon. I've heard of other devotees also, especially like there are some people I know who they say when they read this Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam at night and all that, they sometimes feel that these living and these entities are coming towards them. So and some of them have said also when the entities come, they are in such a situation that they are able to preach to them. They in fact tell them, right, by please chant the names of the Lord, please do this, and then in this way they actually preach in their dreams or whatever. I don't know. That's what I've heard. I've not felt this kind of things before. I know some people, they are sensitive to this aura and all that, so it's possible. But generally, what it means here is, I probably think that there are entities who are benefited by this and they are attracted because they see this as a way out. Because when they are in this situation, they are actually suffering. So they are looking for a way out, how to escape from this. And people who recite these things, it's like a doorway for them. So if you feel that this kind of feelings are coming, don't read it so much late at night if you're not ready to handle these things. But you can read it on maybe you can read it in the early evenings or you can read it in the morning. But if you feel you can, then you can. Actually, anytime is fine. But if you feel disturbed about these things, then I suggest you read it on other times of the day.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, Mataji. Also, if you ever get this kind of situations, you can chant, you can remember Narsinghadev. Narsinghadev is the form of the Lord which he took just for the benefit of devotees. And I've heard many stories. And in fact, some of my family members also, they have experienced that if at all they have this kind of thinking, dreams or whatever, they just shout out the names of Narsingadev. So there is a particular mantra. You can just say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Or you can also say this particular mantra, especially is good for this protection of devotees, Narsingadev mantra. So, but this mantra is especially meant for devotees. It's meant for those who are following the regulative principles and all that. But otherwise, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will do. Just remembering the Lord is sufficient to dispel. Or if you can remember a verse in the chapters which you are reading, just say the verse. If at all it comes to your mind, just say these verses. They're very, very powerful. Okay, Mataji, anyone wants to share? Anyone else wants to share about what are the learning lessons behind this story? What we can learn from this story?
Do your duty. Don't ever shove away.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji. Yes, the duty is very important. If you remember chapter 3, it will be all about karma yoga. So the yoga of karma. So there's a one, like remember Arjuna in the beginning, he wanted to leave his duty as a Kshatriya and go off to the forest because he felt pain and everything. He didn't want to. So that has to be done properly. So there is a way to renounce and how one should actually continue one's duty. So that, anyway, I'll talk about that in a while in the summary of the chapter. So basically, he says in this chapter 3:16, my dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So this is what happened with Jada, the Brahmana Jada. He gave up his cycle of sacrifices, and instead it's fine that he became it's fine that he does the duty of a Vaishya, but he was not doing his sacrifices, and in this way he committed sinful activities. So whatever that he was doing, he did not return the gains back to the devatas. So there's cycle of sacrifice established for everybody. So this duty or work is itself a sacrifice. So therefore, this verse here is something which we can learn. This comes from chapter 3, right? So that's what happened. So, and then he also says, it is in 3:35, it is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. So this is another important point. So each one of us have our prescribed duties. Like, for example, we are a mother, okay, we have our duty as a mother. We are a father, we have our duty as a father. We have our duties in our activities, in our jobs and everything like that. So we should make sure that we should do our prescribed duties properly before we are looking into something else. So, like how charity begins at home. So we have to get that done properly. So here it says it's better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, because we are still trying it, than another's duty perfectly. So that is the main point here also. So because this Jada, he gave up his dharma as a Brahmana, though he wasn't a perfect Brahmana, but still he decided to be a perfect Vaishya. So that shift is not something which is prescribed. Because if everybody starts doing this, then there will be chaos in society. If everybody, if each one of us have a prescribed duty, if a mother doesn't do her duty properly, and let's say the mother says, okay, my main duty now is to earn money for the family. So it's not so much taking care of the children, let my grandparents take care of the children, or let my auntie take care of the children, or let the babysitter take care of the children. So then there's a problem. So it leads to some problems eventually, right? The child doesn't get the necessary attention, which is very, very important for the growing of the child's life, and the bonding of the emotional bonding and things like that. So though that is also a valid duty, but in Kali Yuga, everybody is not doing their duties in the right way already. So it's unfortunate, but we should try our best to ensure that these particular duties like that. So like the father has a duty to establish dharma. That is his main duty, to ensure that his family members are in line with following the codes of conduct, that in line with scriptural understanding. So this is the main duty of the father. But in Kali Yuga, most of the time, it is about ensuring that the family is taken care of. That's also a duty, but there are other duties. Like if you remember, when we get married, there is this Saptapadi, the 7 steps. If you read the translation of the 7 steps, so there you can understand the duty of the husband. So like that, there are different duties that we have. So it's important that we have to ensure that we follow our duties. How do we know what our duties are? We have to read scripture. So, or we have to learn from the guru. The scripture or the guru will tell us, like for example, Manu Smriti will tell us what's our duties as the father. Srimad Bhagavatam has lots of instructions on all these things. So that's one, right? And then what else we can learn? We can learn that for a devotee, there is no need to perform post-funeral prayers. So one of the things I forgot to mention was this, when Jada took the form of this shining personality as the form of Vishnu Dutas, so then he told this son of Jada, there is no need for you to go to Kashi, because the very reason you wanted to go to Kashi, you have perfectly done simply by reciting this chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, for a person who becomes a pure devotee, a devotee who has faith in the spiritual practices of Bhagavad Gita, of reading scriptures, of chanting the names of the Lord. So for this person, simply by doing these activities of chanting, of hearing, chanting, remembering the Lord, simply by this bhakti seva, these are all bhakti seva. Simply by doing this, not only he himself is benefited, but his entire lineage is benefited. So by these the activities look very simple, but just by doing them, his entire generations are benefited. So it is a great boon if one is born if one is born in the family who is able to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord, devotee of Krishna. There are many stories like this. In one of the later special sessions and all that, we will tell a story about how one single, if you read the story of Prahlad also, Prahlad Maharaj. When Prahlad Maharaj, after Hiranyakashipu was killed, Narsinghadev asked Prahlad Maharaj, please give me a blessing, please give me a boon. Please ask for a boon. And I will tell you what you can ask for. So then Prahlad, when he heard this from Narsinghadev, he said, no, I don't want any boon from you. I already have everything just simply by getting your darshan, simply by getting your seva. I have no desires. And then Narsinghadev says, no, you please have to ask. My darshan cannot go in vain. I know that you are a devotee, but still I wish to give you a boon. So then Prahlad said, please save my father. My father is such a demon and everything, but I don't wish for him to suffer. Please give him the liberation that you're giving all the other living entities. And then Lord Vishnu says, that is already automatically done. You don't have to ask for a boon. Simply by taking birth as a devotee of the Lord, simply by your presence, so many generations that has come before you, and not only that, so many generations in the future also, simply by your one presence, are already liberated. So therefore, you don't have to ask for that. It's automatic. You will get it. So ask for something else. So in this way, this conversation went on. So the point here is again highlighted in this Padma Purana story here, that simply by being a devotee is the best thing we can do for our departed family members, for our departed souls, our forefathers. Simply by we becoming a perfect devotee, we liberate all of them automatically. So, Janavi Mataji, you have a question?
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, let's say, according to this story, we can picture up that at least one member of the family members become a devotee and chant this Bhagavad Gita or read Bhagavad Gita to the non devotee members. At least the non-devotee members can get liberated, right?
Yes.
Okay, at least now, let's say the departed members about 1 year or 2 years, can we still read this?
Yes, definitely.
Bhagavad Gita to help out?
Definitely can, Mataji. See, not only Jada was saved, Jada's brother who died many years ago was also saved, and Jada's relatives, the ancestors who passed away many generations ago were also saved. So it doesn't matter. Time is of the material world only, whereas devotion transcends. So you can chant for. That's why in ISKCON usually there is no real necessity to do the samskaras and all that. So what we do is on the Tidi day, if best we do every day the special prayers and all that. But on the Tidi day, if we just chant Hare Krishna, we do a nice recitation with family members and everything, and we sing bhajans, and then we offer prasadam to the departed soul. This is more than sufficient to save the departed from any situation. In fact, it will give that person the highest benediction. This is as per scripture. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So what else
Hare
can we
Krishna.
learn from this? We can also see that, a ghost form is also not it's also another. I just ask you all to mute. Okay. So a ghost form is also another body. It's a subtle body. It is not a gross body because not everybody can see it, but it's a subtle body made out of the mind, intelligence, and ego, and also some subtle material elements. So it's like when a person dies, if you read the Garuda Purana, usually when a person dies, he takes another body. It's called the preta, and in that body he remains within the family members and all that for a few days. There's a certain number of days within that area he remains, and then only the Yamadutas will come and they will bring this soul who has taken this preta body, and in this way he goes on a travel. So it goes on a journey. The journey is about 1 year, so until he reaches the abode of Yama. So that's why they like to do these ceremonies for 1 year. But that's for a normal person. For a devotee, this is not really so necessary, according to the scriptures. Okay, so we learned these points from this particular story, right? So let us move on to chapter 3 itself. So chapter 3 is Karma Yoga, if you remember, right? So chapter 2, it talked about the soul, and it talked about many other things in brief. But chapter 3, it begins with a question. Why fight if better to be a spiritualist? Because at the end of chapter 2, Krishna will tell, don't just do your duty, try to be a spiritualist. And then Arjuna was misunderstanding. He was thinking, oh, a spiritualist means no need to do work. Go to the forest. And especially, why should I fight? Why should a spiritualist be fighting? Right? So he linked fighting and spiritual realizations as two different opposite things. So then Krishna tells Arjuna, right? So just because you want to be a spiritualist doesn't mean you don't do your duty. So that's the main point of chapter 3, right? He says there are two ways to be a spiritualist, two ways to transcendence, going beyond this birth and death. So one is the jnana path, which is beginning with karma yoga and then goes on to jnana yoga and then to ashtanga yoga, and in this way eventually bhakti yoga, and then they escape. Or the other path is directly the path of bhakti. You begin straight away with bhakti. So then he clearly gives the answer in 3.3 to 3.7 that between the two, the path which is superior, right? The one is by far superior. The path of bhakti is by far superior than the other one. And then he goes on to tell Arjuna, don't think that simply not doing duty and simply renouncing and becoming a sannyasi, that is very spiritually advanced. No, that is not necessarily true. So to understand this better, let's look at some scenarios. So the first scenario is if Arjuna were to not fight. So Arjuna will say, I don't want to fight. I want to leave everything and go. I'm frustrated. I'm hurt. I'm confused. So I give up everything. So just like sometimes, people, they get married and then they have and then in the family doesn't treat them well. They don't like the family. And then they say, yeah, okay, I'm tired of all these things. I give up this family business. Let me become a sannyasi. So this is the same kind of mentality which is there, where Arjuna, he wants to give up his dharma of a Kshatriya and says, I don't want to fight all these things. It's so horrible. Let me just go away and become a renunciate. So same scenario. Okay. So this is what is called premature renunciation, right? Because to renounce is not very ordinary. One cannot just renounce just like that. I'll tell you why in a while, right? So then there's another scenario. This other scenario is Arjuna says, I don't want to fight. But now the reason is not escapism. The first one was escapism. He doesn't like his current situation. So therefore he escapes it with the pretext of saying that I'm going to become a spiritualist, right? The second one, I don't want to fight. I want to leave everything and go. I will give up material pursuits and take up spiritualism. So this is better. This is just like what Arjuna is saying. So Arjuna initially is saying, I will let go. But then when Krishna talks about spirituality, he's thinking, I will be a renunciate. I will let go this horrible job and let me be a renunciate, because that's what you seem to be saying, right, Krishna? So then Krishna says, no, you misunderstood, right? So this is the second scenario. He's not just leaving everything. The difference between the first one and the second one is the first one is leaving everything and he's just going to go and do nothing. He's hurt, he's frustrated, he's confused. The second one, he's leaving everything out of frustration, and then he's thinking, let me be a spiritualist. So this is a bit better. At least he has an idea to be a spiritualist. But the problem is this kind of spiritualism will not last. This is spiritualism done in the mode of ignorance, right? It's done out of frustration. So it will not last. It'll eventually the person will fall down again and it's not going to really work out. So that's why Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't jump simply into spiritualism like this. Do it step by step, carefully. That's a way to do this. And then the third scenario, Arjuna were to say, I will fight, but I don't really want to. And so I will do it half-heartedly. So I give a different shading here. Now the difference between the first two and the third one is, he's not saying I won't fight. He says I will do my duty. So this is much better, because if one doesn't do one's duty, then he gets sin for not doing one's duty, right? Just like if a mother neglects the child and does something else, there is some kind of sin which they will get from the neglect, because that was the original point of the relationship. The child is suffering, or the child will be neglected due to the actions of the mother, right? So simply not doing one's duty is danger. So there's the danger of sinning for not doing one's duty. So in the same way, Arjuna was supposed to take care of dharma. By not upholding dharma as a Kshatriya, by not defending dharma as a Kshatriya, then what happens to dharma? Dharma will be exploited, right? So therefore, the sin of that exploitation will go to Arjuna for failing his duty. So this is better. I will fight. He's going to do his duty. But I don't really want to, because he's not very convinced about it. But I will do it anyway, but I will do it half-heartedly. Now this one, is not very bad sin because he's still doing his duty, but he's doing it half-heartedly. So therefore, dharma will still suffer. The dependence who are depending on this person to do their duty will still suffer. Just like a teacher, if a teacher comes and then he does his duty for teaching, it's not that he doesn't come, he enters the class, but he is not really bothered to teach properly. So therefore, there is some karma for not doing the job properly, half-heartedly, right? One should do it properly, in the best of its ability. Then only he is free from sin in that particular category. Then there is the fourth scenario. I will fight, but I will fight, and I will fight, I will try my best. So therefore, there is no sin, right? Because he's doing his duty and he's doing his best. But he says, I'm doing it because I have a motivation. I want to win. I want to win. I want to enjoy. I want to get the fruits. So these things are all, this is karma kanda. It's better than the other three. It's better than the other three scenarios which I talked about, right? But it is still not the best. So in this way, in chapter 3, Krishna will try to convince Arjuna, you at least fight, and while fighting, you will win your kingdom. So you will enjoy. Even if you lose also, at least simply because you did your duty to your best of your ability, even if you die doing it, you will get a better birth in your next life. You will enjoy heavenly pleasures. So you will take birth amongst the pious. You will take birth amongst the devatas, simply for doing your duty perfectly. So this is karma kanda. So, and then Krishna tells, but Arjuna, there is something even better than this, because even if you enjoy, eventually you will have to come back down to earth again after your pious credits expire. So this is what he's telling. So then I'm giving you a fourth scenario. This fourth scenario, you can see I've given a different shade of color, right? So this scenario is, I will fight because it's my duty as a Kshatriya. I am not interested in the outcome really, but I will do my duty to the best of my ability. So this is better. Why it is better? Because now this is called yoga. So that's why I put a different color. So yoga will lead to liberation. If one does simply karma kanda for fruitive activity, he again takes birth after birth after birth. He may not suffer because he did his duty properly, but still he has to take birth. So the first one, the dark blue color, the dark blue color is sinful. It will lead to lower situations. The blue color, the middle shade of the blue is also slightly sinful. It's not very sinful, but it's slightly sinful because he's not doing his duty perfectly. But then the light blue one is not sinful. Instead, it is piety, punya, but it is not leading to liberation. So not very good also. Whereas the fifth scenario which I'm giving is actually yoga, and it will lead to liberation. I will I'm doing it for the sake of duty, because I should do it, I will do it, and I will do it perfectly. Nobody should be disadvantaged by me not doing my duty properly. So that is the idea. So that is karma yoga. So after talking about karma yoga, Krishna will tell Arjuna, karma yoga is all fine, but do you know the culmination of karma yoga is actually bhakti? To do it for my pleasure. He tells Arjuna that. You can see the verses. Bhakti is perfection of karma yoga, 330 to 332. So this is the last scenario which I'm giving you, right? I will do my best, Arjuna will say, and fight. So no sin is there, right? But I will do it only because it is Krishna's desire and it will please him. So this is his only motivation. So if he does his duty with this motivation, then that becomes bhakti. So it is not karma yoga, it is not karma kanda, it is yoga, but it is now bhakti yoga. So that's the difference between this. So I hope with these scenarios, you are able to see the differences between The color shadings should help you to see the differences between it, right? So therefore, Krishna tells Arjuna, right? Don't be attached to not doing your duty ever. Don't ever be attached. As you are born in this human birth, you should know clearly in every role what are your duties. And one should, that's because we cannot give an excuse, oh, I don't know. You're a human being, we are human being, we have intelligence. We should know what is the purpose of this human life. And then we should act according to our duties in this Varna ashram that we have in this life. But at the same time, we should understand that all this is done for the pleasure of Krishna. By performing Varnashrama, one can actually please the Lord perfectly. So if we have that consciousness that we are doing it for the pleasure of the Lord, then that is the topmost. That is Bhakti Yoga in the topmost. So therefore, Bhakti is very simple. One can be a father, one can be a mother, one can be a child even. Child also has duties, right? His duty is to study properly, follow the instructions of his father and mother, but he does it for the pleasure of the Lord, because he knows if he does all these things nicely, then the Lord is pleased. So then it becomes bhakti. So the father, he goes to work, he earns money, he tells his family, okay, study scripture, chant, learn these proper things. He directs them properly in the right activities to do. So then, and he does all these things for the pleasure of Krishna, to please the Supreme Lord. So then he is doing bhakti. And then the mother also takes care of the child, the mother takes care of the family, the mother does all these various activities. And she does this for the pleasure of the Lord because she knows that this will please the Lord. Then that is also bhakti. So this is action dovetail to yoga. Action in yoga and particularly in bhakti. So this is what we can learn. So basically from the lessons of this chapter 3, escapism is not spiritual, right? So that we have to understand. Renunciation must be fueled both by detachment and attachment to spiritual pursuits. So simply renouncing out of frustration and saying, I will take up spiritual life or to become a sannyasi or whatever like that, it is false renunciation because it is done in the mode of ignorance. So it has to have both. One has to have great desire for spiritual pursuits. At the same time, one has to have detachment. Then it is in the proper direction. So this is something which is not ordinarily achieved by most people. It's a very advanced stage to have detachment to that extent and to have attachment to spiritual pursuits to that extent also. Then one can become a sannyasi, not before. But even then, it's not necessary. So then at that time, one can say, I'm not going to do any more work. That time I will go and be alone and do nothing. That time they can say like that if they want. But this is a very high level. So usually this is done by those who follow the jnana path. So they have great detachment and they have also great attachment to spiritual pursuits. So they give up their family, they go to the forest, they go to the Himalayas, they do meditation, and they are able to do that for a long period of time, right? And eventually they improve and all that. But in Bhakti plan, you don't have to do that kind of activities. You can remain in our activities, you can remain in our actions. Simply we convert our motive, convert our motivation towards the pleasure of the Lord. At the same time, we include the processes of bhakti, Shravana, Kirtana. We hear, we chant, we read scripture, we worship the deities. So in this way, we are able to achieve the same spiritual attainment, right? Third lesson, therefore it is an advanced stage and not to be imitated by beginners. So that's what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Don't simply go and say, I don't want to do your duty. Do your duty, but do it because I'm telling you. So therefore, Krishna is the Lord. So by direction of the Supreme Lord, he attains all perfection. So then Krishna says, do karma yoga first, then only go to jnana yoga. You cannot just straight away go to jnana and meditation and all that before practicing karma yoga. It has to come step by step, right? So for those who are following the jnana path, it begins with doing duty out of detachment without looking for the fruits, right? That is the jnana path. But that path is very difficult. Even if you follow like that, still it is very, very difficult and very, very risky. So Krishna says, therefore, he recommends starting with karma yoga to set an example to everyone. But ultimately, he tells Arjuna, better still Krishna, better still Arjuna, no need to follow karma yoga, go straight to bhakti. It is the perfection of this karma yoga. So therefore, this is the conclusion of this chapter 3, from 3:8 to 3:32. Now, the next aspect of it is material conditioning. What happens to the person? Why the person commits sinful activities? Why the person does what he does, even though he knows is wrong? So this one we will discuss in our special topic, and that will be karma, the law of karma, which will come in the next chapter. In the next week, we will discuss this. So it's a special topic. We will take a break from the chapters 1 to 3, and then we will talk about karma. So here it's these detailed aspects and all that we won't cover today. We'll talk about it in the next class. Okay. So it's 9 o'clock now. So I will take a bit more time to just talk about some practical spirituality also. So today we are going to talk about the 4 pillars of religiosity of Dharma. We discussed it 2 weeks ago. Last week I couldn't finish this part. So I will just finish it today and then we will open to Q&A. Okay, so now remember the religiosity or virtue. Now, if you talk about any religion or any spiritual aspiration, it has to have the basis. And the basis is this 4 pillars of Dharma, or the 4 legs of Dharma, the bull. So any kind of spirituality cannot stand if it doesn't have Satyam, Saucham, Daya, and Tapa. So last time we talked about Satyam, the last remaining pillar of religion in Kali Yuga. So today we will talk about Saucham. Saucham means cleanliness. So when we say cleanliness, right, it's a special word, Saucham. It's not just cleanliness. It means cleanliness of various things. So it's basically divided into 2. One is called Sarira. Sarira means cleanliness of the body. Now this is easy to understand, right? So even cleanliness of body can be divided into 2 parts. One is personal, our personal hygiene. So for example, we brush our teeth, we clean our tongue, then we take our bath. So acts of personal hygiene, especially if we are involved in worship, then there are certain things one cannot do before worship. For example, if someone touches dead body, then one becomes contaminated, right? So this is contamination. So when one is contaminated, one cannot perform certain acts of worship. So, or if one touches stool, the excretion of animals or anything like that, if one touches urine, so then one becomes contaminated. So when one becomes contaminated, one has to take a bath. So a full bath, and then again he can perform worship. So, or after sexual activity, that also a person becomes contaminated. Or especially in temple worship, even after eating, one becomes contaminated. So when one does puja and all that in the temple standards, one has to take a bath even after doing all these things. So that is personal hygiene. There's a lot of things to learn on that Brahminical aspects, but for our understanding, for family life understanding, where we don't have personal deities and all that, so it's simple basic understanding of personal hygiene. Bathing 3 times a day or 2 times a day, it's quite common sense. Keeping our fingernails short, things like that. And then there is also Saucham in environment. So environment, of course, is also, living in a clean place, sweeping, mopping, making sure that the area is clean. So that's also easy to understand enough. But there is also Saucham, not only due to the body, physical, it is also due to manas. Manas means mind. So cleanliness of the mind. So cleanliness of the mind can be further divided into two categories. One is contemplation. That means what one is thinking in the mind, right? And the other one is called conversation. So what you are speaking. So what we think, naturally, we will eventually speak. So cleanliness of the mind has to be guarded also. So that means, some people, they think about a lot of, so what is considered unclean? So in general, it is described, there's this verse which comes in the Bhagavatam, Abhyatirtha stada tasmai sthanani kalaye dadau dyutam panam striya suna yatra dharmas chaturvida. So it is said, striya or what we call saucham is destroyed by this activity called striya. So illicit sex. Illicit sexual activity, when we think about it, when we talk about it, or when we say or even act on it, that destroys the pillar of cleanliness or saucham. So therefore, devotees take this vow, right? One of the vows are, the vow of saucham is no gambling, right? Because we remember, the vow of satyam was no gambling, because gambling destroys truthfulness, and at the same time to uphold truthfulness. And then the second vow is the vow of no illicit sexual relationship, right? Because that destroys the pillar of saucham or cleanliness. So the moment one thinks in this manner, sometimes there are some people who are very dirty-minded, who like to speak a lot of dirty things or see pictures in that kind of way. So these are all very contaminating to the consciousness. So it's not conducive for spiritual life, and therefore it is generally avoided. So that is the pillar of saucham. Okay. So like this, there are two other pillars which we will discuss in our next subsequent weeks. Okay. So with that, I would like to end today, right? So the Gita kit is there, the Srimad Bhagavatam is there, food for the soul. So I hope that we can all continue this process of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Now, normally what I will do is, it's easy to chant in the morning, early in the morning, right? So you can easily cover many rounds. So like a lot of devotees, they do about 8 rounds or 10 rounds in the morning. It takes about an hour, and if you spend 1 hour, you can cover 8 rounds. And then like that, you can take a break if you like, or you can just settle it everything if you do it early in the morning. So this is called mantra japa. Mantra japa means, mantra is, mantra, we say the mantra, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the mantra japa. And japa means saying it with beats. There are different types of meditation. So this is a type of meditation called mantra japa, which is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, and this is a very special mantra where no rules and regulations are necessary, right? One can even be unclean, even when one chants this mantra. This is by the mercy of the Lord. This is because this is not a Vedic mantra. Even before taking bath and everything, one can chant the Mahamantra. But one can chant it, right? No problem. No offense, no aparat in this chanting. It's a special concession given to people in Kali Yuga, because in Kali Yuga it's very difficult, unless not everybody is a Brahmana. So therefore one doesn't have this kind of facilities. But one should not use the Tulasi beads if one is unclean. One can simply chant, but to use the Tulasi beads, right, one should be at least clean. If this is difficult, then one can use the neem beads, right? So this is some of the practicality of the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So before we open the questions, let us just chant together. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Thank you very much, everybody. Jai Srila Bhagavad Gita. So now we will open to questions. Anyone wants to say anything? Let me just
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Ladies first, okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu, just now when you were telling the story about the ghost, you mentioned the name Achintya. You know, can I know what's the meaning of this Achintya?
Achintya means inconceivable, something which cannot be understood. So the Lord is described as Achintya. Achintya means he can, the things he does is beyond our understanding. He is able to do many things which is difficult for us to fathom. So that is what Achintya. Achintya Shakti. When we say Achintya Shakti, the Shakti is so amazing that it's difficult for us to understand how it works. So this is the meaning of Achintya.
I see. Okay. And then about the ghosts also, you mentioned so many type of ghosts, you know. You say there is a Preda and then Bhuta and then what else, Prabhu? Can I just, for inquisitivity, I want to know.
Okay. I'm not an expert in that, but a few I can name: Preta, Pisacha, Bhuta. Like Pisacha is usually tied to a tree. That I've heard. It usually stays in a tree. Bhuta, I don't know too much details. And then there is something called Yaksha. Yaksha is a special type of ghost. It's power. I wouldn't say ghost, but it's a special being lah. It's one of the associates of Lord Shiva actually. So Yaksha, and then there is what's the other one? Rakshasa. Rakshasas, they usually come at night. They eat flesh and all that, and they drink blood. So Rakshasa is like Ravana. Like Ravana
still exists, is it?
Yeah, they are all there. Ravana was an example of a Rakshasa species. There are different types of species. Amongst Rakshasas also, there are different species of them. Like amongst Bhutas also, there are different, like something called Brahma Rakshasa. The Brahma Rakshasa is considered the most powerful amongst all of the ghostly beings. They are very, very, very powerful, and it's not easy to dispel.
What do you mean by powerful? What do you mean by powerful?
Powerful means
how Rakshasas
powerful means
powerful?
Ordinary exorcism methods will not dispel them. You really need a very powerful ritual or something like that, or a person has to have a great amount of faith before they can come and dispel. So like ordinary ghosts, simply by chanting the names of the Lord, they will disperse. But Brahma Rakshasas are actually those who are cursed Brahmanas, like Brahmanas who in their previous lives they were Brahmanas, but they were very sinful and they were cursed. So the power of the Brahmana is retained, and then in their next life they become this kind of species of ghosts, very powerful. It's quite rare. But there are this kind of species.
Okay. Apart from that, Prabhu, there are also some cases in today's life where people say they get possessed by these negative forces, negative energies, and all that. Is that true? Really exists?
Yeah, according to scriptures, it's there. These things are there. Usually, people whose aura is weak. That means their subtle body, their aura is weak, or their faith is weak. Now, where do ghosts usually come? The scriptures say that if a place is unclean, so that's why even in Islam, right? They have a doa for masuk tandas. If you go to the tandas, before that they put a doa there. So the idea is the same, because these creatures, they live amongst dirty places, and like crematorium, like places where unclean things have been committed, or generally dirty place, and also at the same time places where there's a lot of meat eating, intoxication, wine. These 4 places, gambling and all that.
And the slaughterhouse and all that, is it?
Yeah. So at the same time, like people who, another way how to become ghost, for sure, I know people who commit suicide, they become ghost. And then it's a sin to commit suicide. So that sin of the suicide is to become a ghost. What species of ghost, I don't know. There are also ways, by perform those people who do black magic, like tantra and all that. So when they die, they also take this kind of forms. I'm not really an expert in this, but from what I've read here and there, yeah.
How about people who die in accident, sudden accident? Will they become ghosts also?
Not necessarily. It depends on, as I said, like this Brahmana, the Jada, he became a ghost due to violence. But violence alone is not sufficient to make the person become a ghost. That person also has to have some karma. If his karma is it's quite complicated. We cannot just say one thing will lead to one. For sure, suicide leads to becoming a ghost. But other things, it's a combination of various factors. And together with that, if there is also violent death, then yes, there's a good chance that they may become a ghost.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much for your explanation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You have a
Prabhu,
question?
Prabhu, I have a question. Not many people in the world are totally perfect, right? So at some point of time, we would have knowingly or unknowingly have committed a sin.
Yes.
So probably that means karma is already implanted into your system, looks like.
Yes.
So recently, a friend of mine, an old patient of mine, who came and said, "Doc, why don't you just come with me? There's a saintly man here who can remove all the karmas if you have done some karma." How far is this true, Prabhu?
Well, the saintly person is very powerful, actually. There is a verse in the scripture, Sarva Bhutani Tirtani. It's in the
verse number?
It's in Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll find it and I'll put it. When we say saint, here we mean pure devotee of the Lord.
Yeah.
So a pure devotee of the Lord is described as a moving tirtha. People go to tirthas. Tirthas means holy places. People go to tirthas, like they go to Ganga, they go to holy places like Tirupati and every places. And then they take bath and then they perform activities. And in this way, they are able to clear their karma. But the pure devotee of the Lord is known as the moving tirtha. It's actually a verse. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he receives Vidura, when he receives Vidura, after Vidura is gone for all the various yatras, he comes back at the end of the Mahabharata. He comes back to Hastinapur. And over there, Yudhishthira Maharaj receives Vidura, and in this way, he glorifies Vidura Maharaj in this particular verse. It appears in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's also there in other places where Lord Vishnu himself says that. So yes, it is true. By the mercy of the pure devotee, the karma can be destroyed. But the mercy of the pure devotee is not so cheap. It's not that simply we go and see the pure devotee and the pure devotee puts his hand on the head, and then just like that, it's like a pass of energy and then the person becomes purified. It doesn't work that way. It even actually simply by taking the dust of the devotee's lotus feet with faith, lots of karma are clear. It depends on our reciprocation also. The devotee's blessing is there simply by, like, for example, if we get a remnant of foodstuff eaten by a devotee and we take that foodstuff and we eat it, we may get so much of benefits, so much of karma is being cleared. But at the same time, it cannot be taken in a cheap way. Like if a person simply comes in a challenging mood and then he does like that, that is not really the right way to do that. But at the same time, it has to be a pure devotee of the Lord, not just anybody who claims he's a saint. But that has to be understood so carefully.
Anyway, I told him I don't believe in all this. Karma has to be.
Yes.
We have to repent for the karma.
Yes.
As it karma we have done, I'm sure nobody has been perfect in the world.
Yeah. That's the problem actually. The person can remove the karma, but it cannot remove the seed of the karma. So the desire to commit sin, the previous sins may be cleared, but the desire to continue to commit sins, our consciousness is not yet purified. That can only get purified when we take advantage of the instructions of the pure devotee. So more than simply getting the blessings of the pure devotee, the real blessings of the pure devotee is to follow the instructions of the pure devotee. So that is the real thing. So Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, He will never say that, simply by me touching you, you will become a pure devotee and things like that. Or it doesn't work that way. He says, I'll tell you a story. There was once Prabhupada, he went in a train from Mumbai to somewhere. And then he was sitting there with all his sannyas disciples and one or two brahmacharis in a compartment. I think two disciples and one brahmachari was there. All of them are wearing saffron. So they were sitting there in that train compartment. And then some people came, they were also sharing the same compartment. And they told Prabhupada, oh, Prabhupada, you're a sadhu, you're a saint. Please bless me. I have this problem. And then they said, and then Prabhupada asked, what's your problem? And they said, oh, my daughter, I need to get my daughter married. It's so difficult and everything. I've had so many problems, issues and everything. She has this bad astrology and all that. And then please bless. So then Prabhupada says, I cannot just bless you like that. And then he said, no, you are a devotee. Please bless me. Please bless. And then pray, I can give you this blessing. I bless you that you will also become like us. And then the man was very unhappy. He says like, no, I don't want this kind of blessings. I want what I want. So the point. Yes, Prabhu.
Why I asked the question is, I asked that, the saint or whatever, I don't know, Dayanandan Saraswati, the holy man. You heard of him? He came to my house and I got a gathering of my friends and all to get the blessing from him. So I asked the same question. Can we remove our karmas? He just smiled. He didn't say anything. So that's what I was wondering. I don't think anybody can take away our karmas that easily.
Yeah. So actually, that's why we are going to have this session. The next week, I'm not going to go to chapter 4. I will be talking about, we will do the special session. We will do karma, the law of karma, how it works. Let us understand how law of karma works. And then we can understand the ways how we can eliminate karma from our life. So yes, to answer your question shortly, one of the ways is to take the blessing and the shelter of pure devotees. In this way, the karma this is what initiation is all about. When a person takes diksha, initiation, they tell the guru, I am now going to surrender unto you and I'm going to follow your instruction. So when that happens, the guru, his reciprocation is, okay, I will remove all your karma and I will take it upon myself, but with the understanding that you will follow the instructions as I'm telling you, that you will no longer be taking the path of the karma kanda. So that is what initiation is all about. And there are ways, there are many places in the scriptures where it has said that simply by taking the blessings, like that's why devotees, they take bath in Ganga. Ganga is a pure devotee of the Lord. So simply by taking bath in Ganga, one is able to remove so much of karma. And at the same time, this is millions of lifetimes. We have karma collected due to millions of lifetimes. And what to speak of Ganga? No need to go so far as Ganga. Tulasi Maharani, Tulasi Devi is another pure devotee of the Lord. One of the days we will talk about Tulasi, her glories. So if one keeps Tulasi in their house and worships Tulasi and carefully, like what we do here in our temple, every morning we have Tulasi Puja, we worship Tulasi, we go around Tulasi, there's a mantra and something we chant when we go around Tulasi. That mantra says, Yani Kani Chapa Pani Brahma Hatya Hikani Cha. So that mantra means every step that we take to circumambulate around this Tulasi Maharani, millions of karma is being destroyed life after life, for each step. So, but at the same time, there is also the danger that, people want to take advantage of all these situations. So the scriptures also give a protection for this. So when people want to take advantage, they say, I will do all that I want to do, but then I will go and take a bath in Ganga. So that one is the worst sinner. That one is not accepted. The scriptures say this is called aparad. Aparad is even worse than sin. Sin, at least we know there's a way out, but aparad is very difficult to let go. Aparad means on the strength of spirituality, one commits sinful things. So that is completely forbidden. And that's the thing. So there are ways. Actually, sin or karma, there are many, many ways to clear karma. And we will hear about this in the next week in detail. What are the different types of karma? You know, karma has different types. And some can be cleared easily, some are not so easy to be cleared, and some takes lifetimes to be cleared. So, but there are some ways which can instantly clear everything. So we will talk about this in the next session, Prabhu.
One irresponsible question, Prabhu.
Okay.
Why I'm a Venkatachalapati Bhakta. I put 3 namams on my forehead, straight. Why is that you are putting 2 with a triangular thing below and then going up to the nose? What is any particular significance?
Okay. So there are this follows the sampradaya. Like for example, amongst the Vaishnavas always put vertical. This is called tilak, right? Vaishnavas put vertical tilak. So the vertical tilak represents the lotus feet of the Lord. So the U, like, you know, there are different variations amongst Vaishnavas. If you look at Sri Vaishnavas, like, you know, in Tirupati and all that, like you look at Balaji himself, he has a big, huge tilak on his head. So that is the sign of Lord Vishnu. So, and then the middle line, the red line is usually, it represents Lakshmi. That is the Sri Vaishnavas. Whereas in the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the U here represents the lotus feet of the Lord. And then this part over here is like, is Tulasi leaf. So Tulasi leaf is kept at the lotus feet of the Lord. So the Lord and his devotee always are together. So in this way, when we put tilak on our body, the understanding is we are making our body into a temple. We are acknowledging that the Lord is within our heart, and therefore we are signifying that this is the temple of the Lord, that we are the temple of the Lord as the body, and we have to behave as a devotee. So it's to remind ourselves that we are devotees. It's also to simply by another person who looks at the tilak, they will remember Lord Vishnu. So in this way. So it's different sampradayas which have different shapes. So it has to follow the sampradaya. If you talk about the 3 lines, you're talking about the horizontal line, is it, Prabhu?
No, I'm talking about the vertical line.
Vertical 3 lines, yeah, that's, yes. Vaishnavas put vertical lines. So the horizontal line is usually followers of Lord Shiva, and also Mayavadas. Mayavadi people are those who claim that everything becomes one, you know, everything merges into one. So their sampradaya, they follow. It's not actually, anyway, we will talk about that in another time, but that they don't accept the form of the Lord. They don't accept that God is a person. They think that God is light, and that's it. Well, the understanding that we have is God, light is part of God, and even light has a source, right? So, and the ultimate form of the Lord is that Satchitananda Vigraha form. So Vaishnavas never accept that God is formless. He is formless, at the same time he is also having a form. Whereas the Mayavadis, they say that God doesn't have a form, that he is only formless. So that's the difference. And so Mayavadis wear this kind of understanding. Lord Shiva's followers also wear this. And why is that so? There is a reason behind that. Maybe in one of the, it's not part of this level 2, but maybe once level 2 is done, we will go into the deeper details of the Sampradaya, of Mayavada and all that. That time we can discuss.
Sorry for asking the question, but
no problem. It's a very good question.
I heard an irresponsible question, but I always wanted to clear my mind.
Yes. So there are many things we do, Vaishnavas. You know, in the Sri Sampradaya, it's not just the head. The tilak we put in 12 places of the body, in the representing the chakras in the body, as well as in other parts like in the arm. So every time after bathing, when we put the tilak, we say the names of the Lord. Like in the forehead is Om Keshavaya Namaha. We say that and we apply the tilak. And then in the other parts, Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayana Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, Om Madhusudanaya Namaha, Om Trivikramaya Namaha, Om Vamanaya Namaha, Om Sridharaya Namaha, Om Hrishikeshaya Namaha, Om Padmanabhaya Namaha, Om Damodaraya Namaha, Om Vasudevaya Namaha. So like that, these are the different names of the Lord. We we put upon ourselves. So it's very purifying. It's very good. It definitely protects from ghost and all that and inauspiciousness.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So let's look at the chat box. I'm looking at the chat box. Okay, there's a question from Rajan Prabhu. Is it 33 million devatas or 33 types of devatas? It's 33 million devatas. But you could also say there are 33 types because each one are different. So like, for example, Surya, there's only one Surya. Chandra, only one Chandra. But then like some types of devatas, there are few. Like there are the Vasus, the 12 Vasus. And then the 8 or 12 Maruts. So like that, there are different types of devatas. But altogether, I believe is 33 million. Right?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So then, Karpaga Mataji, you asked 8 rounds meaning 108 beats times 108. Oh, no. 8 rounds means 108 names, which is one, in the beats we have. If I show you the beats, wait, let me show you the beats. You can see the beats. If you look at the beats, each beat, there are 108 beats. So when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that's one beat. Then we move to the next beat. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Like that, we move to all the beats, starting from the big beat all the way to the small beat. This is called one round. So it includes 108 names. 108 mantras. Okay. So 8 round means doing this 8 times. So usually one round will take about 7 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes. So if we do 8 rounds, that means it's like times 8 lah. So I've sent previously I sent a Word file at the end of level 1, I think, to show you, it'll give instructions on how to chant and all the details and all that. What I'll do, I can send it again, so you can have a look at it. Okay. Then there's another question by Karpaga Mataji. Annabelle will be put in what category? Recently, I'm dreaming of this Annabelle. Okay, I have not watched the movie, but Annabelle is the doll, right, that gets possessed and all that. Yes, possession is all there. There are, as I said, different categories of ghostly beings. So they can do this. They have these abilities, but usually it affects people who are weak in aura. Normally, you won't find it. Most people usually have very strong auras, unless they really weaken themselves. How they can weaken themselves? One is their astrology themselves is not good. Like some people, they are born in a certain situation where the planet position, it makes them automatically weak or susceptible to this kind of attack. So for example, if Saturn is in a certain house, if Saturn is in this, for example, if Saturn is in the 6th house, that person becomes very powerful. They will never be affected by black magic or, by spirits and all that. Their karma is such that they are not, Adi Atmika, Adi Bautika, Adi, Adi Devika. So Adi Bautika is miseries caused by other living entities. So this can also include ghostly beings. So if our karma is such that we will get disturbance by these kind of things, it is also there it will be shown in the astrological charts. So that's one. Sometimes the astrological charts are such that it's not all the time we are weak. It's only during certain periods of time. And there are certain do's and don'ts also. Like, that's why they say like babies, for example, when they are born, babies are very susceptible to this. Their aura is very weak. So they are very susceptible to this kind of situation. So they need to be protected. That's why, babies are usually not brought outside in the evenings, or, a lot of care is taken, right? They put the wasambu, a few other things they do. So, and sometimes babies will cry a lot when they go for traveling. So it's due to these disturbances of the aura. So, and as adults, sometimes they also go through this. So there are ways. So generally, if one is spiritual, one practices vegetarianism, one practices, one follows, their faith is strong. They are not too fearful most of the time. They follow do's and don'ts. Like, for example, when we go out at night and everything, if you don't want bad dreams, if you don't want ghostly disturbances, we should wash our legs. This is a very important point. Muslims know this, but in the Vedic scriptures also there, our grandparents also tell us we should wash our legs. And when we wash our legs, we must make sure that the heel and the ankle is washed. So usually we should wash a bit up, not just touch the floor and then go off, not like that. No, it's not like that. We should wash our legs. And other important things are there which can also protect us. Like, cow urine, that's why the cow, you keep a cow in your house, you don't have to worry about ghost or anything. No ghost or spirits or this kind of things will come towards cow. So especially if you have cow urine with you, you can sprinkle it, mix it with water and sprinkle it all over the house. It's very purifying. But most purifying is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. There is no other more purifying thing than the holy names of the Lord. If we can have faith with that name and chant, everything is automatically done. But in the beginning, our faith is not strong. So therefore, we don't chant so much, but we can take shelter of these other things as well. Okay, Mataji, I'm not, I don't know too much about ghostly creatures, so I can't really go into the details. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? It's getting late. If you want to leave, it's all right. Let me just go through the questions quickly. Prabhu, my daughter has experienced this negative thing that is looking at her. How to overcome? So yes, she has this problem astrologically. Yes, ask her to chant Nrsimha mantra. Well, you see, other mantras, to chant them, we need qualification. Usually Vedic mantras, we need to come to a certain qualification in order to chant. Otherwise, there are some offenses that we can commit in doing these mantras. So if we want to chant Nrsimha mantra, one has to be at least following the 4 regulative principles. One should be vegetarian. One should, of course, 4 regulative principles means no illicit sexual activity, no gambling, no intoxication, no taking, alcohol, wine, that kind of thing, and also no meat eating. So these kind of things we should avoid. And at the same time, if we are also chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then we can say this Nrsimha mantra additionally for protection. So this Nrsimha mantra is very powerful. I've known a lot of people. In fact, even my wife also, sometimes, they have bad dreams and things like that come. And then when you say this Nrsimha mantra, it just completely dispels the fear, completely dispels the situation. So let me know, Mataji, and then I can tell you also separately in WhatsApp or something like that. But in general, the idea is we need to invest our faith in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because that mantra doesn't need qualifications and it's all auspicious. And then while we are doing this, additionally for protection, while our faith is not yet so strong in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then we can say these other Nrsimha mantras and all that. But at the same time, as I said, before sleeping, wash the leg, put cow urine, sprinkle here and there in the house. In fact, you can even bathe using cow urine. You can put a few drops in your water and then bathe with it. So like that, it's very excellent for negating bad aura. So, or cow dung, they have this cow dung, dried cow dung, mix it with water. You want to purify a place, cow urine and cow dung is very powerful. That's why, even when we have Griha Pravesh, when we have a housewarming ceremony, why we call the cow, one of the things is we get the cow to come walk, and then as it's walking, it'll pass cow dung, it'll pass cow urine, and then it'll just go off, and then we worship the cow. So in this way, it purifies the house from all kinds of inauspiciousness. At the same time, we chant Hare Krishna. We have a nice kirtan in the house. So it's very purifying. So there are many, many, many things like this. It depends. Okay. So then I think that's most of the questions. Anything else? Otherwise, we can stop.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Very much,
Thank you.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Then,
Prabhu.
Haribol. So I'll
Thank
see
you,
you all
Prabhu.
next week. So it's a very
Yes.
interesting topic. Next week, we will talk about karma. Why do bad things happen to good people? That will be the topic. So hope you all can join me. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.